What up, Wargamers? Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Stos, and today we are back for another Let's Hobby. This is my video series where I show you what I've been working on and what I have been getting done. So, what have I been doing? I have been cracking out some more work into my vampire counts, my Warhammer Fantasy Battle vampire counts. Yes, we're still doing it. I have punched out a couple of little units. I have as well added something new to my dwarves. There is one of my particular viewers that will be particularly happy to see what I have punched out because they kept asking for it again and again. I think you know who you are. So I've done it. And in fact, I've actually already filmed a battle report with it, which will be coming out, you'll see that at some point after this video. But yeah, still cracking through my vampire counts. Production has slowed down somewhat on them, but I'm absolutely still getting it done. So yeah, you will see all of that in a minute. But now, if you are interested in supporting this channel, consider becoming a channel member. It is our channel members that are, they are allowing me to continue doing this, essentially. They're allowing me to invest time and funds and all of the things into this channel. So it is through their support that, you guys are able to see videos like this. So huge thank you to my current channel members. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to do the normal YouTube things, guys. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, do all those things. Speaking of subscribers, we have, a noteworthy moment for the channel. We have hit 3,000 subscribers. Yes, unbelievable. How bloody cool is that? I feel like it was only like a little while ago that I was celebrating the 1,000 subscribers, and here we are at 3K. Ridiculous. Yeah, it's still just growing, which is pretty cool. I keep expecting it to just kind of like cap out and be like, that's it, I found my audience. These are the people that enjoy my things. Awesome. But so far, she's still, the bell curve continues to rise, which is, it's pretty wild. It's definitely not what I was expecting, but hell yeah, I'm sure eventually it will. But right now, we are still growing, people. So that's super cool. So yeah, huge thank you to all of my new subscribers, all of my old subscribers, new and old. Love you all, guys. So, if you want to be a part of this little channel as it continues to grow to glory, consider becoming a channel member / subscriber. But without any further ado, let's have a look at what I've been working on and what I've been getting done. And here we have what I have been doing with my vampire counts and dwarves. So as you can see, I have cracked out 3 fellbats, a unit of 6 black knights, and a flame cannon for the dwarves. Farmer Wall, rejoice, mate, I heard your call. And there it is. So, hell yeah, cracking it out, peeps. Let's start with the fellbats here. So, these are the new fellbat sculpts from Age of Sigmar, and I tell you what, I love these new models. I think they are bloody beautiful, really cool sculpts. And they just shine. They shine with a little bit of paint. It's no secret that I never particularly loved the old metal, vampire counts fellbats. Some people like them, and there is a certain charm to them, and to each their own. But for my money, I don't know, I could just never quite get into the strange kind of piggy look that they had going. And the moment I saw these, I was like, yes, definitely picking them up, because fellbats are just, they're a great utility piece for the vampire counts, to lock down, small units of chaff shooting or what am I trying to say? Or war machines, that is their job. And they do it great. So I wanted some models that, I could be proud of to do this very important job. And I tell you what, these are it. And I think they've come up looking really cool. So I've painted these in the way that I've been painting my entire vampire counts, using the Zenithal Prime. and then followed by, you know, contrast paints, leaning heavy on the contrast paints. And with the Zenithal Prime, you know, starting with a black undercoat, and then basically building up layers of white, you know, obviously going through grayscale until you, I mean, I barely even actually hit pure white, maybe on the absolute topmost parts, but otherwise it ends up as like, you know, a grayscale kind of thing. And I've had some questions as to what primer I use. So I don't use the classic ones from G-Dubs, you know, Wraithbone and whatever the other one is. I just use Vallejo primers, like a black primer and a white primer. And, you know, because putting white over black, it takes many, many layers before white turns into white. It goes up through gray, which is kind of what I want. Pure white is sometimes a little bit too stark for contrast paints. You know, it's designed to be over these like Wraithbones and whatnot. So yeah, but that's how I do it. And then basically I just put some contrast paint over it. And because all you're doing with the Zenithal Prime is just exposing the values of light and dark and, you know, exposing the texture of the model itself from top down, you're basically just, you know, the model kind of paints itself in the respect of like the details. You're just adding a tint, and all of the sculpting and all of the texture of the model itself comes out through the Zenithal Prime and contrast paint. And man, these models are great. So they came up looking pretty great. So how did I do it? After the Zenithal Prime, I used Black Templar on all of the dark bits, so, you know, all of the, like, you know, the bat fingers and the body and fur of the bat. And for all of the wings, I used a slightly mixed down version of Guilliman Flesh, so mixed down with the contrast medium. And then, yeah, just popped a layer of each over the top of everything, and Bob's your uncle, shablam. So I did also then use some Agrax Earthshade on all of the fleshy parts, doing a couple of layers, you know, building things up where I wanted it to be a bit darker, so it didn't just look like pure flesh, it still needed to look like, I don't know, like beastie stuff. It's not like a human skin that we're looking at here. It's still an animal, so, but it should be, I wanted it to be fleshy without just being like, look at that human on flesh on a bat. So yeah, on parts of the wings and in like the ears, I built up a lot of Agrax Earthshade just to give it that, you know, that depth, that darkness. All of the like little bone bits, so all of its little claws and stuff, got a smattering of Skeleton Horde, and then I did layer up some real paints, some conventional paints on the claws, just going through Ushabti Bone, or maybe starting with Xandri Dust up through Ushabti Bone right to the tips with Screaming Skull. Just some nice, you know, traditional layering just to get those claws popping. Same deal with the teeth. And then really that's about it. I think I did some really small highlights on the faces themselves, mixing Rakarth Flesh with, you know, varying degrees of Ushabti Bone and Screaming Skull just to get some nice texture going on the face itself, just to, you know, get those faces popping. And then in terms of the furry body, I just did some dry brushing. I dry brushed it Skaven Blight Dinge, which is a nice dark gray, and then just up through a couple of grays. I think it was maybe Dawnstone, and then whatever that really light gray is. Oh God, what is it? Nah, can't remember, but the really light gray that's almost white, but not white. And that's it. That's how they got done. And man, I am super happy with the result. Look at this bad boy. So you can see, because of the Zenithal Prime, the inside of this one's wings are quite dark because it didn't get a whole lot of that white on there. I definitely, you know, I didn't just spray from the top with this one. I needed to get some color on those wings. But, you know, because it's in shadow, they shouldn't be super bright, and thus they are not. But man, they still just look so cool. I spent a good few layers of, what am I trying to say? Agrax Earthshade on the back of these wings, because similarly, they did cop a lot of that that white primer on the back, it being, you know, this big flat surface when you're spraying from the top like this, so that it didn't just look pink. Again, just, you know, washed it down until it came with had a bit of a hue that I liked. But, you know, all of that, maybe not all of it, the vast majority of that, like, you know, variation in tone is just coming from that beautiful Zenithal Prime. You know, you've got these these lovely dark bits down here, lighter at the top. It creates this really nice natural shifting tone rather than just, you know, very flat paint like your traditional paints can create, that you then have to like, you know, actually go in there and paint it all yourself to get some nice some nice differentiation in tone. But the Zenithal Prime and Contrast Paint, man, it just does it all for you, and I love that. I love that. I love these super quick, easy results that look bloody good, you know. Like, I do not profess to be a fantastic painter. I think I get, you know, tabletop plus at best. And sometimes, like, the stuff that just happens naturally through doing this method is honestly better than I could actually create myself if I was trying to, because I don't know, it just does the job, guys. I love it. I am in love with this new painting method. I avoided it for ages because I just, you know, I'd built up my own personal skills and collection of regular paints and was like, I don't know if I'm ready to relearn a whole new technique, but tell you what, I'm pretty stoked that I did. It's definitely not all I do these days. It depends on the model and the project, but for this Vampire Counts project, because they are such a dark and grungy and gritty army, you know, everything's dead and gross, you can get away with so much. And it just, I don't know, it really lends itself to this faction, which is so cool. So yeah, man, I love these models. I think they're amazing, and I am, you know, max pleased with how they ended up. In terms of the basing mix, they have been done the same way as I'm doing the whole army and how I do most of my basing these days. I have a 3-part grit mix that I just keep in a tub. It's really fine dirt from the yard that's been sieved out, so it's the super fine. And then a like fine grained sand that I bought from a hardware shop. Originally for like a little like play pit for my boy, but we had a bunch of it, so I snabbled some for myself. And then quite a coarse grit sand that I just got from the beach. And so with those 3 kinds of grit, it creates this really nice varied texture on the bases. Obviously threw a couple of big rocks as well and medium-sized rocks around as well. And then yeah, that's the grit mix. I then painted the whole base with a slightly watered down craft store paint that is burnt sienna, which is this kind of like orangey brown. It's definitely still brown. It's almost like a Mornfang brown. If you like watered it right down, it could probably just be rust. But yeah, and then after I put that on, I hit it with a heavy wash of this brown black homemade wash that I make with a couple of inks and some water and dish soap, because I don't know, you put a lot of wash on bases, and using, you know, expensive, lovely, you know, Games Workshop acrylic washes, probably not the best thing just for bases, so I don't. I make a crappy homemade one, and there she is. And then yeah, just a couple of dry brushes. Actually, I think it's only 1 dry brush with these. All these guys get is a single dry brush of Ushabti bone, just to bring out all of the texture and give it like a dusty, barren feel. The rocks pretty much got the exact same workup in terms of dry brushes of gray as the fur did. Yeah. Maybe some of them, I vary them a little bit. Some of them get, you know, a starting with Skaven Blight Dinge. Some of them just get a start with Dawnstone, just so there's dark rocks and light rocks, but generally speaking, they're just grey rocks. And then everything, once the rocks have the grey on it, everything gets that dry brush of Ushabti bone to give it that dusty feel. A few tufts, Highland tufts and Deadland tufts from the Army Painter. And that's it, that's my basing, and that is these boys done. Super stoked with them. They were a joy to paint because it's just these 3 big models, slap on some contrast, and they looked great. You know, low on the detail in terms of like varying colors. You know, there's basically 3 major colors on these guys, and they're done. And I love them. I'm probably gonna have to get some more of them because they're just so awesome. So hell yeah, fell bats. All right. Let's have a look at the Black Knights. And in my case, the Black and Red Knights, because I don't know, just because they're called Black Knights, I don't think they have to be completely black, but my army colors for my vampire counts are black and red, and so here they are in all of their black and red glory, with a tiny bit of green, because they've got these fun little like I don't know, like ivy and stuff. They've got vines that have been growing on them, obviously, while they've been entombed in their burial mounds. And so, yeah, it's a nice little pop of color throughout what can be a little bit of a dingy and dark kind of paint scheme with these guys. But yeah, I did quarters in terms of black and red, you know, like black and red, and then quartered them the opposite way on the opposite side. Yes, very good. And then, you know, quartered their surcoats and arms as well. So it's just, you know, your classic quarters. Gave them all that same glowing bluish tinted white blades on the tips of lances. Oh boy. And on the sword of the champion. So yeah, and similarly, once again, guys, pretty much all contrast paint apart from the metallics. So I'm using the Flesh Tearers red for the red, Black Templar for the black. I've got Skeleton Horde for all of the skulls and skeleton bits, and boom, there they are. So, and then for the armor, I again, if you watched my last Let's Hobby, I make this armor color by using a super bright Vallejo metal color, I think it's called, which is like just the aluminum, I think is the one, so just the brightest bright, and then I mix in some black ink and some burnt umber ink until I get this kind of like dirty bronze. So you can see on the back of the horse here, that's the dirty bronze that I'm speaking of. And then I did the same for all of their main large armor pieces, and then I made up a more, I don't know, goldish bronze to do some of the details. So the chain mail, or in this case the scale mail, hanging down off his surcoat, all of the edges, and like the skull symbol on the shoulder pads. Any little bits of filigree on the armor got the more goldish tint, same as on the haft of the lance here. And then they all just got a wash with Agrax Earthshade, and then I used the technical paint, that does the patina. Oh boy, I can't remember. It's the Games Workshop blue technical paint. Nihilak oxide, Nihilak? I'm not sure, however you say these ridiculous names. And then, yeah, just put a big old wash of that all over it. I didn't just like completely cover it, but, you know, obviously focusing it into the recesses, and then splashing it around a bit as well. And once that was done, then I basically just go back with a sponge with the original color and sponge that in to break it up a bit and bring back a little bit of shine. And then just take some pure silver and hit some very, very little tippy bits to bang it up a bit and give it that, you know, that little pop and highlight. And that's pretty much them done. How I do the white blades is I just use a pure coat of, what is it, the metal color that I'm talking about? I'll see if I can find a better one. Oh, well, I've got this guy. So I bought all of these guys off eBay because, I mean, oftentimes that's what I do these days. Unless I just can't find something for cheaper, I tend to not buy things brand new. If I don't have to, I don't. But so yeah, I got all these guys off eBay. So, but a few of them had some defects. You know, we've got some bent lances. But again, these are dead guys. You know, their stuff is probably not pristine. And this guy actually was missing an arm in total. And so for those with the keen eye, that is a Bretonnian knight's arm lance that has been attached to this man, which I think is great. You know, why not? There can definitely be some old Bretonnians in this crew. Oh boy! But let's have a look at these white blades. So you can see this bad boy's white blade is a little bit better, and it's just the pure brightest bright silver. Just a nice base coat of that, which honestly goes on so good, man. You can put it over white, you can basically put it over black, and a single coat. It's meant to be an airbrush paint, but the coverage is just crazy. Just crazy. If you can find that, you know, Vallejo titanium white, man, get it. It's so good. But anyway, and then I just put basically a single coat of athematic blue contrast paint over it, and it still has this, you know, this wonderful metallic feel, but with this ghostly white blade vibe, and it seems super easy, and it gives me the effect I'm looking for. So, and again, just adds a pop of color to what could be a bit drab of just black and red and, you know, dark bronze. So So yeah, that's it. Oh yeah, and then I just dry brushed a bunch of dry brushes to you know, to smash up the pieces of cloth, because again, these are dead things that have been buried for ages. The cloth shouldn't look nice and fresh. So I've done kind of like as if you were dry brushing something like a like bone. I started with Xandri dust on all of the red, you know, just really bringing it mostly to the bottoms, but kind of giving it, you know, a bit of an all-over dry brush, and then moving up to Ishabdi bone on the little tippy edgy bits, and then dry brushed the black as if I was dry brushing stone. Same thing, you know. What is that stuff? Skaven Blight Dinge up through Dawnstone to the brightest bright one, and then again just hit that with the Ishabdi bone as well, just to give it that dusty feel. And that's these guys done. I reckon they look pretty cool. I tried to give them like some slightly different like coat of arms style stuff on their shields to give them that knightly feel again. This guy's got like the, I don't know what this is called, but it's got the little triangular peak through it of red and black. This guy didn't have a shield, so he got a Graveguard shield. He actually didn't have a head on his horse either, and I found like an old undead skeleton horse that I think was from the old like 5th edition Chariot set. Glued it on. I mean, you wouldn't know unless I pointed it out, or unless you have incredibly keen eyes, but yeah, he stands out a little bit. This guy's just got, you know, the classic halve straight down the middle, and then we've got, I don't know, I just kind of followed the sculpt on this one. And this guy has like a diagonal thing. But I actually spent way more time than I should have on all of the ivy. You know, I put a good few traditional highlights into the tips of those little leaves. Just worked my way up from, I don't know, like a dark green, gave it all a brown wash with the Agrax Earthshade, and then worked up through Warpstone Glow and Moot Green for the very tippy tip bits. And I really like it. At first, when I like started painting these and realized there was all of this detail sculpted into it, I was all like, oh God, I'm gonna have to paint that. I can't just, you know, can't just put a big old wash of something on stuff, and I'm gonna have to actually paint things. But once I started doing it, and once I started seeing how it really elevated the models, you know, it took them to that, I don't know, the A+, in my opinion, from, you know, it just adds some color, adds some detail, because these are cool, you know, quite powerful, heavy cavalry, and they should look awesome. And I think they do. You know, they still look dead and run down and busted up, but they've got some cool stuff going on. I like them a lot. I want a lot more of them. I do have a bunch more that still need to be built and painted and the whole shebang. And I think, honestly, moving forward with my vampire counts, that'll probably be, once I've, you know, painted and done my 2,000 point list that I'm working on at the moment. And in my 2,000 point list, there is just the 6 of these at the moment, which I can already tell is not enough. But I've written the list, and that is what I'm painting, and I'm committing to that. And once I've played a game or two with it, then I'm going to change it. But until then, this is the list I'm making, because I could just keep changing it without ever finishing it. So I'm going to, you know, just stick with what I got. But the first thing I'm going to do is paint more Black Knights, because I want more, and I'm doing Blood Dragons and a big old unit of heavy cavalry with a vampire in it. Oh, it's, yeah, sets my heart on fire. So I think they will be the first big shift from my current list that I'm working towards. But that is the current unit for the list done. 6 of them in the bag, all sorted. Yes, and I'm happy with them. I think they look good. All right, and moving on to the Flame Cannon. Yeah, boy. Flame Cannon is pretty cool. Again, bought it off eBay. And yeah, man, it's a sweet looking thing. It's a strange looking thing, if I'm being completely honest, with all of these like weird dials that it's got going on here. It's an I don't know, take these away, and I think it's quite a sleek, you know, little cannon thing with just like a couple of big cylinders and the big dragon head. You gotta love the dragon head. I gave him a little jade green eye in there. But then you got these, I don't know, I find these things a bit wacky, but But honestly, it's a bit of a wacky, unit model thing entirely. The dwarves have a fun kind of steampunk thing going on with their gyrocopters and the flame cannon. And this definitely leans into that. You can very much see how the Caradron overlords from Age of Sigmar came about, with things like these as a starting point. This and the gyrocopter, they were basically just like, instead of having, Tolkien-style dwarves, we can basically take the stuff that is our IP, which is, super crazy steampunk, and turn them into a faction. And out came the Caradron overlords, and you can see their starting points in this old sculpt. But yeah, it's still cool. It's still cool. I still really like it. It is just a little bit funny. But it's cool. So yeah, this one got the basics, kind of same workup that all of my dwarf artillery has gotten. I sprayed the whole thing rather than spraying it with just a normal metallic this time. I used the Vallejo, metallic air thing that I was talking about, and just mixed some black ink into it, so it wasn't quite so bright as a starting point, because it's very bright. The aluminum is it's incredibly bright silver, and I didn't want it to be aluminum. So, a little bit of black ink into it, and you can basically mix it to whatever tone of silver you need it to be, which is pretty amazing. So yeah, sprayed the whole thing with that, and then just picked out the details. I used, put a lot of bronze on this because it felt right, to have a lot of bronze on this flame cannon. So it was Balthazar gold, which is funnily enough a bronze color, for all of the bronze bits, and Retributor armor for all of the gold. Gave them, either a red wash with Reichland flesh shade, or brown wash, or a black wash, depending on the kind of silver or metal I was doing. And that was it. On the wheels, I decided to go for wood and green. Honestly, it's the one thing that I'm not 100% sure on in terms of artistic choice here. I wanted to put some green on the model, and I thought having the entire wheel green would just be a bit overpowering. So I thought, yeah, half green, half wood. I think it looks all right. I committed to it because that's kind of what I do these days. I'm not, I make a choice. I and ah over a choice for long enough, but once I'm in it and I'm doing it, unless it is just complete trash, I just go, yep, that was the choice I've made, and there it is. So yeah, it's not bad. It's maybe, if I did it all again, would I do it again? Maybe not, but I still think it looks pretty cool. Yeah, used contrast paints for the wheels. I used snakebite leather for the brown, for the wood, and it is orc flesh for the green. And then, yeah, just picked out some of the little silver rivets. I'm pretty sure I gave the snakebite leather a wash with Agarax Earthshade. And yeah, that is it. Now, this guy, I wasn't sure what to do with him. Now, he came with there's a little hole in the deck piece that he's standing on in the back here, and it looked like there was supposed to be a peg for his leg, but it wasn't there. And I was like, well, do I glue him on the back here? What do I do with this? But if I glue him on the back, you're supposed to have crew that gets removed, and if he gets I don't know, I wasn't coming up with the right answer. So I, for the first time ever, magnetized something. Yes, he's got a little magnet. So, when he gets removed and there's a little magnet there, I can just boop, clip him on, clip him off. The only problem is still that, if this gets charged and these guys, step to the front to defend the machine, I clip him off and he's got no base and he stands there, or if the crew runs, he's running away with no base. I could, I don't know, magnetize a little base for him, or just... but funnily enough, a long time ago, in an old eBay lot that I got, I actually got this model all by himself, this little man, and he came with a bunch of old school metal thunderers, and I was like, what is this guy? Because it came with a standard bearer and 5 old metal thunderers that I'd like to paint up at some point. And I was like, is he the musician? Is he got You know, I had no idea what the hell he was. But, so it turns out I've got a spare one of those, which is pretty amazing, which I haven't painted. But my plan will be to paint up the spare so that, you know, if he needs to come out and thing, I'll clip him off there, bring out the spare model that'll be based and properly done like everybody else. And boom, I've got it all. I've got a guy that can be removed, that can be put on a base. Yeah, because this is the thing. If I glued him on a base properly, and then he's on this, you know, textured ground base standing on the back of a machine. I just didn't like it. It was not, you know, it wasn't blowing my cock off. And that's, that's what I'm looking for, people. Explosions. So, but yeah, and then I've just got, you know, your classic little crew boys, which have just been painted up the same as my usual dwarves. I'm using that orc flesh for the green, which I then highlighted through warpstone glow up to moot green for like the, you know, you can see the tops of that arm there. It's all highlighted up. All of the usual metallics, same thing. Gave this guy a big workover. I love this guy's like padded. He's like padded jerkin thing that he's got going on. Spend a little bit of time, again, more time than I needed to, just like highlighting those little triangles, you know, getting some little tips on them. But it looks cool, and, you know, I particularly like this sculpt. I think he looks awesome with his fun little flag and fire, lifting the flag. So cool. So, yeah, there it is. That is the flame cannon done. So, you know, expect a battle report soon with this bad boy featuring it. It's already filmed. It's just, it's on the editing table at this point. But yeah, there it is, guys. You know, a couple of units for my vampire counts and a new war machine for the dwarves. And there it is, another Let's Hobby done. So yeah, unit of Fellbats, unit of Black Knights, and a new war machine for the dwarves, the flame cannon. Sweet, super stoked how they all turned out, and, you know, happy to be getting closer and closer to my vampire count list completed. There's actually very little left to do. Well, you know, I say very little, but on the scale of what I've painted so far, very little. I've got, you know, 10 ghouls for the list. what I'm working on right now is the ghouls, and I'm painting 20 of them, so that hopefully, you know, I've already got a little bit of stuff to change up my list. You know, I've painted a little bit more than I need for a lot of things, so that, or at least for the starting list, so that I can almost immediately swap some stuff in and out and have a bit of variation, which is pretty cool. I'm pretty stoked about that. So yeah, I'm working on 20 of them at the moment, and they're actually pretty close to being done. They just need a couple of details and the bases, and boom, ghouls are done. I recently got 10 of the new direwolves, which again are just, man, some of these new sculpts from Games Workshop are just fantastic. You know, stuff that can be ported over is just so good, from Age of Sigmar, obviously, to Warhammer Fantasy, which is going to be happening a bunch, obviously, with the old world happening. So yeah, those new direwolves are just, amazing. So I got 10 of them, and I've built them. They need to be primed and painted, so they'll be the next things after the 20 ghouls. And again, there's only 5 of those direwolves in the list. Gonna paint 10 so that I can potentially take 2 units of 5, which is the kind of classic direwolf mix. This first list, honestly, you know, I wrote a list a while ago just so I had something to work towards. And having never actually played vampire counts, I played Undead a bunch back in 5th edition. They were my first army. My first faction back in the day was Undead, before they had the split between Tomb Kings and vampire counts. I played them a lot, obviously, but I've never played vampire counts in 6th edition, or Undead in general, anything dead. So I sat down, I wrote a list, and, you know, after playing against Dwayne and Damon's vampire counts a couple of times, you know, I've got different ideas from the original list that I built, but again, I'm just gonna work towards that list, and then I'm gonna change things. So yeah, so the 10 direwolves are next, and then I'm gonna finish with the 4 characters. So finish the ghouls, 10 direwolves, 4 characters, and the army is ready to go. Plus, you know, redundancy for things like, you know, I could do a 30-man unit of Graveguard, which I don't think it's a great choice, but I've painted 30 of them. I've got 60 zombies. I've got 40 skeletons with hand weapons and shields. I do have I've got at least 25 to 30 skeletons with spears, which, you know, are in varying states of either unbuilt or built that need stripping from eBay. So I can potentially get, you know, more skeletons, but that's later. That's later. To finish this list, finish the ghouls, 10 dire wolves, 4 characters, and vampire counts are going to be on the channel. Well, at least my vampire counts are going to be on the channel, people, and I can almost taste it. It's so close. And I'm leaving the characters till last, partly due to stress about making decisions as to how I'm going to paint them, because I'm still not 100% sure on how I'm going to paint my blood dragon knight on foot. What I'm going to do with his armor, whether it's red armor with a black cloak, or black armor with a red cloak, or like, you know, quartered black and red plate armor with a blue cloak, because blue is kind of the accent color apart from the black and red. I still haven't made a proper decision. I'm gonna look at some some pictures, have a look at what some other people's have done. I'll Google Blood Dragon Knights images and see what comes up and see if I can get some inspiration. But I'm also just saving the characters because they are by far the most satisfying thing to paint. You paint a single guy from start to finish and it's a joy. It's a joyous experience because you go through the steps so fast. You know, you paint 20 guys and you start with green and you're on green for a while, right? You're on that green for ages. And then you move to the next thing. But you paint that one guy, that one character model, you see it come to life so quick from primed, and then you've gone through one color, next color, boom, 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 and suddenly she's a living little bad boy, or in this case, an unliving little bad boy. So yeah, characters coming last as a final little, I don't know, reward. A final reward for Stos for getting through another 2,000 point army. And this will be my third. I know that doesn't mean much to a lot of people that have, you know, built God knows how many armies and painted all the miniatures, but it's a big deal for me. It's a big deal for me. It was a big deal just having a single fully painted 2,000 point army, and then 2 of them. The fact that I'm about to have 3 of them, I don't know, makes me really happy. It tickles me. Tickles the 12-year-old boy that started this hobby thing way back. The fact that I can have that. So that's super cool, and it's so close now. So much of the legwork has been done. So yeah, how good is that? So yeah, there it is, guys. There it is. It's all done. Just another quick little Let's Hobby to fill you in on what I've been doing. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did and you got this far and you're not subscribed, consider subscribing, guys. It's just going to put, you know, more of my videos in your feed. Battle reports. In terms of battle reports, I'm absolutely largely focused on Warhammer Fantasy Battle, but I'm starting to crack out some Necromunda stuff as well. I am mildly interested in Warhammer 40k 10th edition. You know, at the very least, I'm definitely going to try it. Whether or not I film it or not, we'll see, but I'm definitely going to try it. You know, I think I'm like a couple of models away from having a fully painted 2,000 point Dark Angels list. Who knows if that'll still be the case when the new books come out and what 10th edition even looks like, but I did not love 9th edition, I'll be honest. 9th edition didn't tickle my ghoulies, so I basically just stopped playing it and just started, you know, diving deep down the hallway, down the tunnel of fantasy, which was always my first love. I love, you know, the science fantasy that is 40k. I love sci-fi, I love fantasy, I love them both. But if I had to choose one for the rest of my life, you know, whether it be, you know, movies, books, war games, if I had to choose one setting, it would be fantasy, and it would be Warhammer Fantasy. So it's always been my hobby heart, and it will probably be forever. Yeah, if you want to support the channel, consider becoming a channel member. You can just hit the join button, and it'll take you to a page where you can have a look at the different tiers of membership that you can use to support us here. Hitting the join button doesn't lock you into anything. It'll just take you to that spot where you can have a look. So if you want to support us, that's how you can do it. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram, links in the description. But until next time, I'm Stoss, happy wargaming, and be good to your mother.